bitches go.
We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Eddie Hearn confirms the industry rumors that Andy Ruiz is not content with the purse and he wants more money. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. We working. Eddie Hearns. Behind the Gloves has an interview with Eddie Hearns, and it says, I will link it in the description so you can watch the full interview and give them the views. It says he wants more money, but unfortunately he signed a contract. So here's a brief snippet. They were asking about, hey, there's room, basically what I reported in past videos. You guys got to subscribe so you can be caught up to date with the latest and greatest in boxing. But there were rumors swirling that Andy Ruiz was not happy with, he wasn't signing and he was demanding more money. Listen.
Just get right into it. Rumors were circulating before that Andy Ruiz objected to fight in Saudi Arabia, or he was demanding more money. Is there any truth to this?
He definitely wants more money. Unfortunately, he's already signed a contract.
So there you have it. So I want to make a video. This whole situation is very weird, and it's really got me upset for boxing. Just because I feel like you look at the first fight, Andy Ruiz, I gave him a shot. I did the 7 reasons, but a lot of people, they gave him, he was a no-hoper. He was, a guy that was going to get knocked out. Even the DAZN commentary crew disrespected Andy Ruiz. I remember they asked Sugar Ray Leonard, and they said, what kind of chance was he need to do? And he was like, oh, man, Andy Ruiz, he gotta throw punches, man. Like, he acted like he had no real, like it wasn't a competitive fight, and there was really nothing he could do. Same thing with Sergio Mora, and it's funny because after Andy Ruiz won, Sergio Mora took to his social media and he's like, Viva la raza, and this is history. You missed a historic Mexican, becoming a heavyweight. But during the telecast, if you rewind it, new media style, and you listen to what Sergio Mora said when he was asked about what could Andy Ruiz do to quote unquote pull off the upset, Sergio Mora was like, oh man, I mean, I don't know. You're putting me on the spot. He had no answers. So that's just what it is. People, they wait. They don't predict it. They wait for something to happen and then react. A lot of people are more reactive than proactive. Anywho, regarding this fight you see on the screen, Andy Ruiz versus Joshua, this is looking chaotic. You have Andy Ruiz, who signed a contract before he even beat Joshua, and after he beat him, he blew up, and they got him like Eddie Hearn's trying to strong arm him into a contract that he knows isn't fair. He's putting it in a location like Saudi Arabia, which has a lot of fans feeling different types of way. There's just different culture, different customs, and you have to respect that. But it's not a known venue, or I don't even think the venue's even built. They're talking about they're constructing it or whatever. So the whole thing just sounds weird. It sounds kind of fishy. And other than that, like he's trying to create his own history. And he's like, oh yeah, so many fights talked about having fights here, so many fight. Yeah, but majority of them, I think Amir Khan versus Billy Dib was in the Middle East or whatever. I don't even know where it was at, but I think that was, the original opponent pulled out with the injury, and I think that was the last fight that I can even recall out in that way. But Eddie Hearn's trying to create his own lineage, his own history, and I just feel like he's mishandling what is supposed to be an anticipated rematch. And this is my opinion. the chronological order is this. The first fight wasn't anticipated like that because, again, Sergio Mora, DAZN, Sugar Ray Leonard, and a slew of people gave Andy Ruiz no shot. He was brought in late notice. People thought, maybe at best Andy Ruiz could win some rounds and then get knocked out or lose, but he was definitely going to lose. You got to keep in mind, Joshua beat Joseph Parker, and Andy Ruiz technically lost. I thought he won in the Joseph Parker fight, but, they didn't give it to him in New Zealand. So the odds were stacked against Andy Ruiz, and he did something phenomenal. And now he's down to fight Joshua in a rematch, but Eddie Hearns trying to, hold him to a contract, knowing it's not right, and it's now complicating things. Maybe Andy Ruiz's team, they want to renegotiate. They're like, nah, too much has transpired, and now it looks like they're exhausting all their options to put up a fight, before the fight and stall it out and or find a way out of it. Either way, no matter what the outcome of this whole thing is, this is not a good look. The fight's in December. This year is going incredibly fast. December 7th, that's the first week of the month. That'll be here before you know it, right? We're closing summer here in America, and it'll be here before you know it. And it's just, this is bad press, and it's not good promotion when nobody knows what's going on, and you have a standoff. You have a standoff between the promoter and, Eddie Hearn having an ego or whatever you want to call it. He's still doing a press conference, a fighterless press conference. I've never seen that in all the years I watch boxing. I've never seen a situation where there was a major fight, especially in the heavyweight division, and they didn't have any fighters, like the undercard. They didn't have the main event, or at least one of them. I've seen situations like I just went to Errol Spence versus Sean Porter. Errol Spence was there, Sean Porter was there, and David Benavidez. But Anthony Durrell wasn't there, and that's who Benavidez is fighting. But I think he was, he missed a flight or he caught in traffic or something like that, and he wasn't able to make it. So I can understand something like that. But Joshua lives in near London somewhere. Why wasn't he there? I get why Andy Ruiz clearly isn't there, because he wants more money. So I just think it's, this is sad. The first fight wasn't even a big fight, but it became a big fight because of what Andy Ruiz did. And then you have Joshua's side, per usual, attempting to be extremely greedy, and they're trying to hold Andy Ruiz on a technicality that was established before he even beat Joshua. And, it's created this whole debacle that we're currently waiting for. And you could tell the power is shifting, and Eddie Hearn is like, by any means necessary, he's trying to hold on to the power. He's trying to cash out and get as much money, just in the off chance that Joshua, you have to take this into consideration. This fight was not even competitive. This fight wasn't competitive. Joshua Ruiz, yes, I said it. It was not competitive. Competitive would be, Ward Kovalev or something. That, like, we all know. I thought Ward pulled it off. That was competitive. Or here, who's that? Katie Taylor? Katie Taylor versus Delphine Persoon. I thought Delphine Persoon won, but it was still more competitive than Joshua Ruiz. This wasn't even competitive. Joshua was getting hurt. He never recovered, and he got knocked down a gang of times. It just wasn't his night. It wasn't a good night. So the only reason anyone even wants to see a rematch is because of Andy Ruiz. It's definitely not anything that Joshua did. And the only reason he's being granted this opportunity at the belt again is because he crossed his T's and dotted his I's, and he was the champion and he lost. So they had a rematch clause, which is very customary for a big star. They had that written in. Outside of that, nobody would even care about this rematch if it weren't for Andy Ruiz, because he was the only one that put on a brilliant performance. It's not like Joshua was super competitive and then he just caught with the, a shot he didn't see and got knocked out. So it's like, oh shit, we got to do a rematch. He was losing every round. Even the third round, he drew first blood. But if you look at when Ruiz got up, Ruiz looked more clear-headed than when Joshua got up. And like I said, Joshua never recovered. So I just think this whole situation is going to be interesting, but it is really being mishandled with this whole, fans just want to see good fights. They don't want to see all this back and forth bullshit and not know. And you take it away. You're taking it out of America. You're taking it out of the UK, saying neutral grounds. There's other areas. And you're putting into a place where I don't know if Saudi Arabia fits the stereotypical fight culture. Do you get what I'm saying? Because again, they have different laws of the land and different customs, like no alcohol. Every time I go to the fights, I see people in the concessions and stuff buying beers, buying IPA and shit, Stella, Fat Tire and shit. So it's a different place. And that's cool if you don't drink, or if you do drink, that's your business. But I'm just saying the fight culture, that's part of it for big fights. Floyd Mayweather, part of it is concessions and alcohol sales, right? And obviously being in a tourist place like Las Vegas, that makes it extremely accessible. And there's other things for a lot of people to do in Vegas outside of the fight. So you can make an event. You have a reason to go to Vegas. You can gamble and do other stuff until the Saturday. It's just, this whole situation is weird, point blank period. I never recall a situation where there was a heavyweight fight or a rematch and the promoter was doing the talking. Joshua's done a couple of interviews, but he wasn't even at the press conference. Don't nobody want to see Eddie Hearn taking photos. Like, people want to see fighters. They want to see the fighters face off. That's like, I went to the Deontay Wilder versus Dominic Brazil, right? I went to Dominic Brazil, Deontay Wilder press conference. That was exciting because the two fighters who have to actually lace them up, get in the ring, and fight each other didn't like each other. So it was a lot of back and forth. I don't want to see Shelly Finkel and Virgil Hunter, doing a face off and them the only ones talking. Like, no disrespect to them, but why would you want to see that? Why would I want to see a press conference with just Steven Espinoza and, another Eddie Hearn or something? Ain't nobody trying to see that. People come to see the fighters. Point blank period. You want to see the actual fighters. So that was extremely weird that Matchroom would even elect under these circumstances to push for, I guess, a press conference. That was, I don't know. That's just weird to me that they had a fighterless press conference. But to each his own. It's a weird move in my view. We'll see how this thing plays out. But so, see, this is the press conference. Look. And Eddie Hearn he's reveling in the fact that he has Andy Ruiz tied into a bullshit contract, and he's kind of pompous about it. He thinks there's no way Andy Ruiz can get out of it, but we'll see. We'll see who wins. We'll see if Andy Ruiz, his team, can come up with a way to get out of it, or if this makes DAZN and Matchroom and Sky Sports and Eddie Hearn look so bad by stalling it out and the clock ticking with no clear resolution that they just give in and give him more money. We'll see, because I really feel like Andy Ruiz kind of got time. He just bought his mom a house, bought himself a house, bought whips. Joshua's the one that needs to prove that he's the same fighter. Andy Ruiz don't got to do that. He's getting a ton of support. And that's another thing. That's what Eddie Hearn, he knows that. He's trying to give Joshua every fighting chance to win this, even though it's in Saudi Arabia. Look, he's the one that's with the meeting up with the Saudi Arabian promoters and basically negotiating this deal and, You don't know if there's behind the scenes deals or agreements or perks, or we don't even know what he's doing out there. You get what I'm saying? We don't know the extent of it. And the other thing is, to travel by plane from the UK, from London to where this fight is going to be in Saudi Arabia, it's like a 5.5 hour flight, 6 hour flight. To travel from California, that's a 16 hour flight. To travel from Mexico, that's a 26 hour flight. So Eddie Hearn thinks he's slick saying this is neutral ground, but it's really not, because if anybody can swing or even wants to go through the trouble of taking a flight, I would much rather take a 5-6 hour flight than 16 and 25 hours. That's a day and an hour. You'd be tired as fuck. You'd be jet lagged. You a whole day off the grid. And Eddie Hearn knows this. That's why they want it in Saudi Arabia, because it's much easier for UK fans to get to, by plane than it is people coming from Imperial, California or Mexico. And, it's just a bad look, because Joshua opened his mouth and said he'll fight in Tijuana and let Ruiz's uncle be the ref. We knew that was a lie, because why do you want to fight in Saudi Arabia if you're willing to fight in Mexico? Andy Ruiz has been consistent. He said, I want to fight in Mexico or the U.S. We can do it in New York. We can do it in Vegas. We can do it in L.A. I'm good with all that. Joshua and his team, per usual, have been the ones to backtrack, switch what they said. Joshua initially said on his own vlog, which is on Joshua's YouTube, he said he wants to go back and rewrite his wrong at the scene of the crime. Then he said he wanted to fight in Mexico and he'll whoop Ruiz irregardless of where it's at. He said he'll whoop him in Mexico, even if his uncle was the ref. And then a day later or whenever, they come out and they're announcing the fight for Saudi Arabia. And it's a one-sided deal. You don't hear nothing from Andy Ruiz's side. This is just pathetic. It really is. And it's turning people. I know me. I have a pretty decent amount of patience for boxing because I've been covering it for so long. So you kind of know what to expect. But this is turning people off. People don't want to see the young and the restless type of long drawn out negotiate. People, Canelo, if you're going to fight Kovalev, just fight him if that's what it is. I'm not saying you like the fight or don't like, but people don't want to see this long, laborious, drawn out saga, that just takes place. Like, oh, Kovalev, he didn't agree. He has 24 hours to agree. People don't want to see that. And these promoters are getting greedy, and it seems like it's happening more and more, and maybe it's because the fighters are getting smarter too. So they're not just settling for anything. But either way, I think, like I've always said, the pressure's on Joshua. He's the one. It's the one in the head that's caught me in the head. He's the one doing these interviews and explaining why he got knocked out and how he's going to be different and trying to change his weight. And, he's the one that got to do it. So it would seem advantageous to, Andy Ruiz ain't afraid of Joshua. Why would he be? He just beat him and he destroyed him. He beat him one-sided. So to me, this is embarrassing. And to me, it seems more advantageous to just pay him something more reasonable or closer to what he wants, so the whole world is not hanging in the balance. But you never know how it'll play out. It seems like all the chips are in on Joshua. He's the cash cow. So it's kind of a money grab. They're putting in a location not that benefits majority of the boxing fans, but that benefits Matchroom. Just on the off chance that history repeats itself and Ruiz beats him again. So we'll see how it plays out. But Eddie Hearn is on camera and he's admitting that behind the gloves, and this Dillian White situation is horrible too. It's just bad times for Rematch Room. But he's on camera admitting that Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz wants more money. This is not a good look. And he doesn't realize that all this stuff is public. That makes it even worse, because people see how you're trying to treat Andy Ruiz. You got him. Okay, you got him. You got him in the contract. You're really gonna get all this money from the Saudis and really offer him $9 million just because you have it, that whatever. To me, it doesn't seem worth all this. Yeah, you can ultimately fuck him over and try to push the issue, but now as a result, they're trying to, it looks like, find different ways to stall it or to not co-sign it, and we'll see how long this lasts. We'll see how long what side budges and what side gives in. That's what it's looking like. It could even go to a legal battle, but I think time is more on Ruiz's side. I really feel that, because Joshua, he's the one that has to right his wrongs. He's the one that has to try to get his belts back. The longer you wait, the worse it gets for Joshua, because if Andy Ruiz gets stripped, then Joshua, even if he fights him and beats him, he ain't gonna get all his belts back. So they better do something before Andy Ruiz gets stripped of one of his belts for not fighting a mandatory, because then the game plan is going to be all fucked up. Because again, that means that even if Joshua dethrones and beats Ruiz in the rematch, it becomes correct. If he gets stripped of a belt, then that means Joshua's going to have to hunt for a belt again that he already had. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think they should just give him more money and stop being greedy. Give to the needy. He beat you fair and square. He blew up overnight after that. You want it back. You got, and see, that's the thing. Matchroom is getting so much money from this, or the pot, I guess you could say. It sounds like a lot. And this proves to me the whole Wilder situation. Without a doubt, this is the team that caused the Wilder fight. I don't see how people can't even see that at this point. This is the team that caused the Wilder fight to lag and ultimately never happen when they were both undefeated, without a shadow of a doubt. Joshua always gets on and says these cue card teleprompter type responses. He says stuff like, oh yeah, there's a lot of money, there's enough money to go around. There's enough money to go around, but everyone's complaining about the pay when they face you or negotiate with you. Everyone's complaining about getting lowballed and stuff like that, or feeling lowballed. So how is there enough money to go around? And this is a recurring issue. Luis Ortiz, Andy Ruiz, that rhymes. Ortiz, Ruiz, right? Dillian White in a rematch. So I don't believe it. Yeah, it's enough money to go around. Okay, there's enough money to go around, but you guys are being greedy with it. And I really think that aside from that location, Joshua should want to fight where it happened, or somewhere, give the champion the hometown advantage and take him that way. That's the earnest way to take it, because at the end of the day, that buries the demons. If you could beat him on any turf, but when you're trying to have advantages, like fight him in the UK and Wales and Saudi Arabia, which definitely benefits you more than it benefits him, it takes away from the win. I really feel that way. And Joshua can act like he came to America for Andy Ruiz, but that's BS, because we know that he was coming for Gerald Big Baby Miller. Ruiz was just somebody, he's like a substitute teacher. This wasn't his classroom. He wasn't even supposed to be here. So don't make it like you came out here exclusively to give an opportunity to Ruiz. Ruiz helped you just as much as you helped him. Here's why. Because the other options that were being thrown around were horrible. They were horrible, and they would have did a lot less numbers. Michael Hunter, he's a good fighter, but he's not a big name or anything, right? So that wouldn't have been Trevor Bryan. These fights wouldn't have generated the same level of interest as Al Heyman fighter who's Mexican American, and just how it all played out. So they can't act like they just came out here and chose Andy Ruiz out of the goodness of their heart. They were in a bind. They were in a pinch because their initial opponent got caught up with PEDs. Let me know what you guys think. We working.
So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.